time you're ready to move into another house,
said something there, and that is that basically a lot of people don't realize it, but the average person stays in a home 5 to 7 years. It's not the end of the world, and sometimes when people come to us and they're looking for a home, they're looking as if they're going to be there forever. It's going to be the first and last house that they ever buy.
they hear that 30-year mortgage and think they're going to pay the entire mortgage off.
Right. Just because the mortgage is 30 years doesn't mean that you're going to be there for 30 years. You could get a 30-year mortgage, and we were just talking just now before we came into the studio of a situation where we see the property was purchased with a 30-year mortgage, and it was sold again within a matter of a month to someone else. So the people bought it, they must have had someone approach them and say, hey, I've been having my eye on that house, and I'd like to buy it. I'll give you this for it. And they must have thought about it and said, hey, we could sell this house. Maybe they bought the house and they only put down, let's say, 3.5%. So you look at this scenario. The house costs, let's say, $300,000. They put $10,000 down because that's all they had. And then they scraped up enough money to pay the closing cost, the lawyer. Maybe it's not the exact house that they wanted. However, it's better than renting. So now someone comes up and says, oh, I want to buy that house real bad. It's next to my relative. It's in a neighborhood that I like. I'll give you $30,000 more than you paid for the house.
How about that?
So now they're thinking, wow, we're out all of our money because we just did scrape up enough money to buy this house. But now we can make a $30,000 profit.
Exactly.
So we'll sell the house. Now coming out again, now they got $30,000.
Exactly. Now they can continue to search, or either they can wait and see where the market goes. That's the great thing about real estate. When you hear 30-year mortgage, you're not trapped into that 30-year mortgage. What you can do is like I said, you can sell the house, you can wait, maybe pay down mortgage a little bit, you can refinance. There's definitely multiple options you can do.
Yeah, 30 years just means that they set it up so that over the period of time your mortgage payments are reasonable, that you can pay it out over a 30-year period. You don't have to stay there 30 years on that house. You could, hey, if you sell the house and pay off the mortgage in a week or 2 weeks or a month or a year, the mortgage company is okay with them as long as you're paying it off. Then you can start all over. You can do what you want to do. Matter of fact, what some people do is when they're first starting out, they have very little equity and they have very little funds.
Yes.
So they get a 30-year mortgage fixed, which means that the mortgage payments stay the same. After they've paid it for 4 or 5 years, maybe now they're in a better position. So they'll change that 30-year mortgage to a 15-year mortgage.
Yes.
Which means that the house will be paid off a lot quicker. So therefore, they are building equity a lot quicker, meaning the house, that the balance that they owe is less than what they started out with.
Exactly.
So therefore, over the years, the house is worth more and more money. More money they can put in their pocket if they sell the house.
Exactly.
There's all different types of mortgages, different types of situations. Main thing we're saying to you is that if you have a 30-year mortgage, don't worry about waiting until the 30 years is over. I have people, and you've seen people that buy a house, they're 80 years old.
Oh yes, they're
getting a 30-year mortgage.
30-year mortgage.
So think about it. You're saying they'll be 110 years old by the time they pay for the house. Doesn't necessarily mean that they'll even be around in 30 years, but at least in the meantime, their mortgage payment is reasonable enough where they can afford it. Maybe they're retired, maybe they get a pension, but it's a lot less than what they would happen if they went out into the open market and rented.
If they're renting or in a retirement home or something like that, it would be a lot more than what their conventional mortgage would be.
And later on down the road, maybe 5 years, maybe all they plan on being there is for 5 years. Well, at the end of the 5 years, they can sell the house, get back all the money they put in as long as the market's doing good, and they got some equity. So, it's all different situations. Don't get scared of that 30-year mortgage.
And I wanted to clarify, some people may see, when they type in mortgage online, they see 30-year fix, and then they see 30-year ARM. When you see ARM, that's an adjustable rate mortgage, which means the rate can fluctuate. which we can see, I feel like some of those products are coming back now.
Now let's talk a little bit about that. Now, you got what they call an ARM, A-R-M, adjustable rate mortgage. Now, what that basically means is that the mortgage payment can change, go up and down with the interest rate. Usually it starts off as a lower interest rate because it's adjustable, so therefore the lender knows if things get bad and they need to make more money, they can go up on the rates.
Exactly.
So they give you a low rate to start with. Now, if you're looking to live in that house for a long period of time and you want to lock in an interest rate, then you get a fixed rate.
Exactly.
But if you're an investor and you're buying that house and you're going to flip it, you're only going to keep it, let's say, maybe 6 months until you finish fixing it up, and then you're going to put it back on the market and sell it, then you want the lowest amount of interest being paid out, or the lowest payment that you possibly can get, because you don't plan on being there long.
So you get an ARM, so that's a reduced rate. For example, I'm seeing a lot of interest rates around 6%. Let's say you get an ARM, they start you at 4 or 5%, but they have it in there that they can increase the rate, or maybe they have something what we call a certain time frame. Maybe after 3 years, it goes up to the standard 6%.
So you see, there's all different types of mortgages. I have people that'll call me up and say, hey, Mr. Scott, I want to buy a house. Have you been pre-qualified? Yes. Well, you need to send me a copy of that letter, because I have to know what kind of mortgage you have.
Exactly.
You know, if you got an FHA mortgage, that's telling me, hey, the property, you cannot have a property that's a rehab that needs a lot of work. FHA doesn't go for that.
Nope.
They want the house to be in pretty decent shape, because they're saying you're a first-time home buyer, you don't have a lot of money, so we don't want any problems. We don't want you buying a house the furnace is going to conk off. This is going to happen.
And plus, those loans are insured by the government. So, you know, let's say, God forbid, you don't pay the mortgage. When that house reverts back to the, you know, foreclosure, the bank still gets paid. The government will insure the bank, hey, there are safe, what they call bets. That's where we all these mortgages, like they want to make sure you pay the mortgage. But if you don't, it's insured. They got the PMI insurance.
The other type of mortgage you have maybe is conventional.
Conventional.
With a conventional mortgage, a lot of times the bank themselves will loan you money that they have in the bank. So they set the rules, and they're not as strict as the FHA program. So they'll say, oh, you can buy the house, it might need a little work, but you know, we have your bank account here, we can see where you have extra money. So if something goes wrong, you have already shown that you can fix it up.
And the fact that with the conventional, they'll be putting more money down.
Right.
So they'll say, okay, this person, I'll say, is putting more money into it, maybe they have a less chance of defaulting on the loan.
So there's all sorts of ways in which you can, you know, buy property. For the investors out there, this is another good tip. For investors out there, that if you're looking to buy a house, and for a lot of people that are self-employed, there's this situation where they call the hard money lenders.
Oh, yes.
Or, you know, off market. What happens in a situation like that is that they're not as strict on the credit. They're not as strict on the employment. They don't ask to see the pay stubs.
Nope.
They go basically on the property's worth.
Exactly.
A lot of times, and how long you've been, you know, sometimes they don't even check the occupation to see if you have a job.
They just want to make sure you put the certain percentage down.
Right, but you have to put a lot of money down.
Yes.
You have to put a lot of money down, because they're assuming if you got that much money, usually it's around, some cases, 25% down. If you're putting 25% down or more, it's much easier to get a mortgage. And a lot of people ask me, well, hey, if I put a lot of money down, you know, is it easier to get a mortgage? Yes, it is. If you're putting, but a lot of money is not another $1,000.
Exactly. I was going to say, when you sit down with your mortgage broker, you're going to see these terms, FHA, fixed, adjustable rate mortgage. But remember, having more buying power isn't always good if it's going to be, for example, let's say you do FHA. When you look for a house that needs a FHA requirements, it may be a situation where, well, we're in a seller's market, I'll say. So sellers may not want to fix everything to make your mortgage, I'll say, attainable.
That's right.
So you might want to say, I'm going to go with the conventional, because even though I'm putting more money down, I know I'm going to have a better chance to get my offer accepted, because that garage with the chip paint doesn't need to be painted.
One of the things that we're looking to do now, and one of the things that's needed, is that we need listings. There's a lot of properties that basically could be sold, and people are not aware of that. They've had them for a while. They don't follow the market. They're sitting on the sidelines. They're thinking about selling their property. And in many cases, it's because you have all the alternatives. Maybe you're moving out of state.
Yes.
Maybe you're retiring. Maybe a lot of times you have a situation where a lot of people want to retire and go into a retirement community or to a subsidized, building, and they count the property as an asset.
Exactly.
So they recently changed some of the federal laws versus assets and federally subsidized buildings. You have a lot of the buildings. Years ago, we used to call them senior citizens buildings, and what happens is that they didn't really, you could have a head of house and then you move into the senior citizens building, and they didn't count it against you as much. Now they've changed some of the tax laws.
Yes.
So that, they're saying, well, hey, you can't have two homes at one time. We're paying your rent here, and then you have your other summer home you can run to when you feel like it.
How about that?
So you may have to sell one of the properties or sell the property, and then, you can take that money and put that money aside for a rainy day.
Exactly.
So these are some of the things that you may want to do, and more they're changing the tax laws pertaining to having other assets and also collecting benefits from the federal government. Because with the with the new budget reforms, they're trying to cut down on the national debt, so they're trying to figure out ways to bring money into the government. So you may want to think, talk to your financial planner, talk to your attorney, talk to your accountant. There may be some properties that you may want to sell at this time, and if you plan on doing that, you want to do it when the values are the highest.
Exactly. Well, I tell people, because I talk to a lot of customers and people inquiring, they may be sitting out on the sidelines. They're not looking at real estate every day like we are. They don't realize, like, when you turn on the news, you're going to see nothing but bad news. When you see news, it's about the latest terrorist attack, economy's in shambles, this is bad, this is bad. But you may not realize, right now, real estate is booming. You could be at the top right now, the value of your house. You've been there since 1998, 2001. Look at Zillow. Even though Zillow is not a real estate company, they're a marketing company, that estimate is somewhat accurate. But give us a call. Look at that Zillow estimate. Give us a call. Invite us over. We'll give you what we call a CMA, an accurate estimate of what your house is worth. And you'll be surprised how much equity you've built within the last 5 years alone.
Yeah, that's called a CMA, competitive market analysis.
And it's free too. How about that? We always got to tell people it's free. They call us up. How much is the CMA? It's free.
You may be sitting at home right now watching this, and you may be saying to yourself, I wonder how much my house is worth. Well, we can come out. It doesn't take that long, 10 minutes.
Nope. 10 minutes.
10 minutes, we come out. We just want to get an idea of what the inside looks like. We actually know what the outside looks like, and we also know everything about the house. We can go online, and we can go into the public records, and we can tell the square footage.
Bathrooms.
Living room, kitchen, dining room, 2 or 3 bedrooms, and people can actually tell whether or not you made any improvements, because every time you make an improvement, you get a building permit. So the city could say, oh, they put a new bathroom in 2015. So we can see most of that, whether you had the electrical upgraded. So we can give you an idea. Like I said, it only takes 10, 15 minutes to come out and look at the property, and we can give you an idea of what your property is worth. You may not even be, willing to sell it now, but in the future, things change.
I was going to say that. One thing that's changed, people may not follow real estate every day, but one thing that they're going to notice, they may get in the mail that says, wow, something is going on. The cities are going to start increasing your tax bill. You may wonder, what's going on with the taxes? The cities are seeing how much these properties are appreciating. They're saying, wow, there's a lot of equity. And people may not be aware that their house that was worth, let's say, $300,000 5 years ago may be worth $500,000. Well, guess what? The cities say, well, now you should be paying more taxes. Isn't your house worth a lot more? You may not even know. So remember, we may get a letter in the mail, and it may say the tax bill's going up, and that's the reason why. And
that makes it a lot more difficult if you're on a fixed income.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
If you're on a fixed income, Social Security, well, your Social Security goes up, what is it, the cost of living. Cost of living goes up maybe 2%, 1%, 2%.
We're seeing, tax bills going up, 50%, 60% in some cases.
what happens is that, you got to be able to sit down and evaluate the different things. A lot of times people are downsizing. You may
Yes.
have, maybe years ago you bought the big ranch. You had the 3 or 4 bedrooms, you had the 2 full baths, you're downstairs, or you bought the colonial. And so, the whole family lived there. You had a house and
Exactly.
maybe 3 or 4 children. Now the children have all moved out. Now it's just you and the husband, and you're there. You're both on a fixed income, and you're saying, we got all this space, all this house. How do we end up paying the mortgage with all of these taxes?
Exactly.
And so therefore, it makes it difficult for people to hold on to their house. They even have a new thing now where states are passing laws where if you have a big house, they're allowing you to rent out rooms.
Yeah, how about that? Yeah, I saw that, where you can rent out a room to help you generate income to help you pay the mortgage.
Yeah, so even this, let's put it this way. The city knows that because the house is going up in a lot of value, and the people are having trouble making the mortgage and the tax payments. So they're saying, we're not going down on the taxes, but we're going to give you a little relief. We'll allow you to rent out a room.
How about that? So
to
make
pay
sure
us.
They're turning you into a landlord. You don't even want to be a landlord.
They're saying, we're going to charge you more money, but here's the solution. You go out and get somebody else to rent from you to pay you money so you can take that money and pay us.
How about that one?
Whereas before they were saying, that's considered a rooming house. You can't go renting rooms out of your house, because now that's going to be more parking on the streets,
Exactly.
more cars. The neighbors are going to complain. Now guess what? The city even went one step further.
Oh, how about this one, huh?
They got new zoning laws, especially in Bridgeport, where they said, you don't have to worry about the parking requirements anymore. We don't have any parking requirements.
Nope, that's out the window.
So we're going to help you in 2 ways. You can go rent out a room in your house, and you ain't got to worry about the extra cars that come along.
Nope, they can park wherever they want.
As long as you pay us the taxes.
How about that? And you see what some cities are also doing. For those people that have big properties and big backyards, you can build what we call an accessory house now, where not just your in-laws, I believe you can rent it out in the backyard. And
The tiny house.
It's a little tiny house, yep. And it has like 1 bedroom, 1 kitchen, 1 bathroom. You see people are starting to put these up because there's no more land. The land is basically developed.
Yeah, you're going to see a lot of different innovations. Like you
Yes.
said, by watching our program, we're going to tell you all of these new things that are coming down. We're talking about them now. We're ahead of our time because, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, these things that we are talking about are all going to become common.
Exactly.
And these are things now that, you never heard of before. I remember years ago, before I was even in real estate, my dream was, I'd like to have an apartment in Manhattan. Boy, the city that never sleeps. You're young, you want to go down to Greenwich Village and hang out in New York City and the parks, Central Park, but having having an actual apartment in New York City.
Wow.
It was a thrill to drive there every now and then. You leave and you come home. Imagine living there all the time, but who could afford to live there when the rents are $4,000 a month?
Exactly, and that's just for a 1 bedroom.
And what they did is they have these small apartments. I always imagine, in New York City, they had the one little room where the bed would, you see it on TV and the sitcoms and on the comedy, where the bed would fold up and go right into the wall.
Yep.
The iron board would come down out of the wall. You had your little stove there. You had the little bathroom over in the corner there. And, you'd have the pull-out bed and or the fold-down bed and the the couch. If you have guests, they had the little futon. You could turn around and fold everything up, put up against the wall, and you have one empty little room.
How about that?
Then you pull everything down, and there's your apartment. Well, guess what? That was then. That was years ago.
Yes.
And that was in New York because things were so crowded. Now it's occurring within other
I was going to
cities.
say, that sounds like this up in some of these Bridgeport rooming houses where you're seeing a lot of people are coming from New York and they're starting to rent out here in Bridgeport. And it is having an effect on the rent. I mean, I talk to a lot of people every day, and when a New Yorker calls me, they'll give me their budget, and the budget fits perfectly for Bridgeport. And say your budget's what, $1,800 for a 2-bedroom? I can find you a 3-bedroom for that much because they have a different price point. But the thing is, when they move here, you're going to see the influence in prices. It kind of displaces the people that currently live in the city.
And you have this now going on in the suburbs. You got
Yes.
in our area, you got Trumbull, Shelton, Derby, Seymour, Ansonia. You have a lot of homeless in like California. They're trying to come up with new ways of building. In parts of Connecticut now, they have the land trust, where they buy a plot of land and they put tiny houses on all of that land. So when you buy the house, you are not owning the land.
Exactly.
The land is still owned by the developer. He takes care of the land and he cuts the grass and whatnot. And you have the rights to stay in the tiny house. Maybe that's all you need.
Yep.
If it's a professional couple and they, you know.
Not to interrupt you, it kind of reminds me like the trailer parks. You know, trailer parks, you don't take care of the outside, they cut the grass and everything, but you have that rights, that little piece of land right there. But you can always get up and move. The land stays there, belongs to them, but it's a mobile house. So you're going to see a lot of different innovations when it comes to renting in the future.
Well, like I said, we're ahead of our time. Some of the things that we're telling you and the ideas that we're giving you now are happening right now. They're in their infancy stage. A lot of them are going through zoning because
that's the biggest thing.
The biggest thing is zoning. But cities are realizing that they have to do something, because here's the problem. Cities want what? They want quality of life, but they're motivated by money and budgets.
Tax revenue.
Money, taxes, and budgets.
Yes.
They got to pay the policemen, the firemen, the school teachers, the mayor's got to get paid, the public officials got to get paid. And most of that money comes from taxes.
Exactly.
So when tax revenue goes down, the money goes down, and so then what do? They can't go out and put an income tax on each individual city. They can't have a GoFundMe. So
I'm sure some of these cities wish they could have a GoFundMe.
they don't have a GoFundMe page to pay the mayor.
Nope.
You know, so they've got to figure out, how can we get the biggest bang for the buck? How do we get more money in? Now here's the other problem that cities and states run into. They're all in competition with each other. So the industry needs workers. You can't have, and I remember going back, I used to serve on so many different committees, and I remember there was one that was called, Workforce 210.
Yes.
Back then they were saying that there's a big shortage of workers. What's the world going to look like when we don't have housing for the workers?
Exactly.
You can't have all executives running a place and no workers, because the workers have to have a place to live.
Exactly.
I can remember back in Waterbury, Connecticut, when IBM came to Southbury, and everybody was saying, oh, there's going to be thousands of jobs, thousands of people buying houses. Well, that didn't work. It didn't materialize. Why? Because all of the executives moved in, the corporate office moved in.
They could afford it.
But the workers did not come, because the workers stayed where they were and drove to work.
Exactly.
They migrated to work because they couldn't find housing.
Correct.
So if you've got to be able to provide housing for your workers, and it's got to be affordable housing. So the state of Connecticut risks losing a lot of their workforce, and the workforce and the workers are the ones that pay the taxes.
Exactly.
The executives, they can always get a tax loophole, pay no taxes.
That's what also we're going to see a ripple effect. For example, with COVID happening, a lot of these jobs that were in the office became work from home jobs. And they're saying a lot of these companies have kept people working from home. What happens to the office buildings? You no longer need the office buildings. So we're going to see over the next 15, 20 years, or even sooner than that, a lot of these office buildings are going to be repurposed, where you don't need a skyscraper in the middle of Manhattan when all the workers are working from their laptops at their house. That may be turned into what? Residential. Turn into, what do we see? Hotels turning into condos, stuff like that.
Which is what we're having, which is happening right now.
Exactly.
We have our local Holiday Inn, which is actually being converted into apartment buildings. So you're going to have a lot of these places, repositioned.
Exactly.
So what we're mainly, emphasizing on, like I said, as of today, is that you want to, if you're in a position to sell your property, you should consider that, get an analysis. We can come out and look at your property, because things go up and things come down. And if you're going to be doing something, you want to do it from a position of strength. So, give us a call, go on Facebook, you can go to our
Twitter,
YouTube,
TikTok.
Twitter, follow us, have other people follow us. We have people now that are following all of our different episodes, because the tips that we're giving you is from the street. We're out there, we're dealing with it every day.
And I wanted to mention, because we're seeing this more and more. Mr. Cooper, if you are getting a letter from Mr. Cooper, we're getting people calling us, what is this, like from our episode last week. Remember, the name sounds friendly and everything, but that Mr. Cooper letter is serious. Don't throw it away. That is a part of your mortgage. Remember, you may have signed something way back when you bought the house 15 years ago. Give us a call if you got a letter from Mr. Cooper.
So until next week, God bless. Follow us.
Amen.